Alright, Now You See Me. That's what we're talking about today. Movie's been out, I think, a week and a half now. I saw it on Sunday. So, after thinking about it for a day and kind of digesting the pieces of it, here's what I got. And this review will be spoiler free, especially here because, well, the main reason why this movie is worth anything is because you want to see how the plot unfolds. If I give that away, that's a lot of the fun taken out of the movie. Um, so, Now You See Me. I'll be giving away just basically what you could get from the trailers. This movie is about four street magicians who combine to form a popular magician show, and and they start pulling off these complicated heists that seem impossible, and then FBI agent is sent out to track them down, and they play this whole cat and mouse game. So that's a pretty simple concept. It's like you combine Ocean's 11 with The Prestige, and you put it all together, and you get this little movie. Now, when I heard about this movie a few months ago, I was actually very excited for it. I liked the cast. You have Morgan Freeman, Jesse Eisenberg, Woody Harrelson, Mark Ruffalo. Um, it's a very solid cast. Even, Dave Franco, who's not a big-time actor yet, but he is the younger brother of a well-respected actor. So I was excited for this one, and my concern going in was the director. It's Louis Leterrier. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. It's something like Louis Leterrier, something to that effect. I believe he's French. If you look at his previous works, his most movie that I knew the most was The Transporter with Jason Statham. And I saw that movie, and I didn't think it was terrible or anything, but it wasn't anything special. So, to me, I look at that and I go, well, maybe this guy doesn't know how to handle a more complicated script. Maybe he's just a decent action director. Can he handle a more complicated script? And after seeing this movie, I don't think he has a complete grasp of it, but I don't think he does a terrible job with it. So, this movie, there are a lot of different elements to it. It's got some action and it's got some drama, and there's maybe a little bit of romance, and there's a crime element, of course, law enforcement element. But at its core, I think it's an action movie with a little bit of drama, are the two main elements at least. And the action is pulled off quite well. I actually enjoyed watching the action play out in this movie. There are a couple of chase scenes and kind of fight scenes, and they're not typical fight scenes that you can see in any action movie these days. They do things a little differently. They take advantage of the uniqueness of the characters they've created to make to make good fight scenes, and the drama, which is the plot. I will say, I think this plot unfolded in an unpredictable manner. I'm not saying it was handled perfectly. In some points, the movie is probably a little too fast for its own good, but at the same time, that means the movie is constantly fun. And one thing about this movie is that for all the holes you can poke in it, it's fun about 90% of the time. Even the slower parts are fun because the movie is constantly shot in a way where things are continually moving, something interesting is happening, and the way that events that happen in scenes that seem meaningless become meaningful in a later scene, it plays itself out quite well. And I have to say, I enjoyed this movie. I'm not saying it's great. I'm not saying it's going to win any awards, but I definitely enjoyed it. The one thing that I was really worried about with this movie that I thought would ruin it for me is the idea of stage magic versus movie magic. When you go to a magic show and you see a magician do a bunch of incredible stunts and tricks, and you're like, oh my god, how did he do that? How did he levitate himself across the room? Like, that's like cool. But if you go to a movie and somebody's levitating themselves across a room, there's no mystery to how they did that. It's CGI, it's movie wires. But the point is, it's not surprising. There's no mystery to it. You can think of at least 2 or 3 different ways they probably pulled that special effect off. So I was worried I was going to go see this movie and there would be a lot of stage magic in it. And my concern was I would come out of that movie going, there was no mysticism there because it's all movie magic. But this movie does a good job of keeping the stage magic. And they do this in a couple of different ways. I'm not going to spoil exactly how. A great example is the first minute of this movie. If you watch the first minute of this movie, that's a great example of how this movie keeps grounded within the realm of stage magic. And throughout the movie, they have these other tricks that in a stage magician, if a stage magician was doing it, it would be amazing. But if it happens in a movie, it's like not even a thing. But through a series of reveals and series of, I don't know, I guess you'd call them flashbacks, it stays grounded within the bounds of stage magic. And that's really what I wanted to see from this movie. That was the main barometer by which I was going to score the work that Lewis did as director of this film. And I think he did that well. Now, the plot isn't as tight as it could be. I mean, it does what it needs to do. It gets you to the end, but the path that you get to the end is not perfectly laid out. I will say that it does eschew that in favor of keeping the audience entertained, which is not a terrible thing, but it does strike me as something that probably could have been better. And I will say that at the end of the day, I would score this movie out of 1 to 100. I'm going to give this movie about a 67 because it is fun. I don't have, that much bad to say about it really, but it is just a fun diversion. I didn't mind seeing it once. I may not see it again. I might see it on cable one day, but for the most part, I was entertained, and I don't know if I would recommend it. I would say if you've got nothing to do and you're into this kind of movie or you're into magic, go for it. But I think this movie works pretty well. And it's certainly above average, and I would call it good. I would call it a good, entertaining time. And that's my review for Now You See Me. Not at all the best movie of the summer, but not at all the worst either. I still think the worst movie I've seen so far this year, and I still thought it was above average, was Oblivion. But not a knock on Oblivion. I enjoyed it. And yeah, that's about it. So I'm going to go watch Point Break now because I have it in my computer. I haven't seen it in like a decade. And next week, Man of Steel. See you later.